Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. I've got a pretty long unboxing episode for you guys today. It was initially meant to be 3 guitars. I accidentally grabbed the wrong one, so we're going to get a bonus 4th guitar in today's episode. But our theme today is a longtime viewer of the show. He asked me if I could sell a couple of guitars on consignment with them. So these first 2 we did consignments. The next 5 or 6 I just ended up buying it directly from him. So we'll see those on another episode. So that means you'll be able to find these on my website, troglysguitarshow.com. But I figured we'd go ahead and take a quick look at these things. Now, kind of a funny story. He took this to the UPS shop. And the UPS guy, I guess he's really nice to him and whatnot. He asked him, do you want me to double box these for it? And he's like, no, I don't need it. Well, it looks like he double boxed it anyways. Life is great when you have a good UPS driver and UPS customer service teams. Because I've had some pretty grumpy drivers before, and then I've had, really friendly ones. And there's nothing better than getting a UPS delivery when you have a friendly person delivering it. But anyways, let's go ahead and find out what's in this case. Just by looking at it, this is a 90s era Gibson Brown case. They're very sought after yet today, as they're 30 plus years old at this point, and they're just really good protective cases. I love the handles on them. They can wear out and become unstapled under here, but pretty easy to fix them even if that does happen. So let's take a look at this custom. All right, it looks like we have a vintage Sunburst Les Paul custom. So what's the difference between tobacco Sunburst and vintage Sunburst? It comes down to the color on the outside. So if it's a really dark border like this one, usually you'll call it vintage Sunburst. Slash is known for using a color very similar to this. But a lot of people will just universally call these things tobacco Sunbursts until they start to learn the really nitty-gritty fine details of what every finish is called. Doesn't matter in the long run, no, as long as you know what color you're purchasing. Oh my. That's cool. This has a flamed back. I've never seen flamed mahogany like this. It's got the same line structure of a pinstripe flame maple top. I've seen them when they're really wide, but nothing like this. That's why the 90s era customs, they're so cool. We were just talking in the Jerry Cantrell video. A commenter on the show said his is a 1997. So if that's true, this is, kind of similar to that. I think this one's a bit earlier. What is it? A 1993. And the wings that they used for the headstock have such a different wood grain that looks a little bit goofy, but kind of cool at the same time. We've got Dunlop strap locks on it, but I would say overall this thing's very nice, clean. And it looks like our original strap buttons are in here as well as a few other various parts. But before we crack into that second custom, we do have a sponsor of today's episode. It's our good friends at Donner again. This time, they decided that I should try out something a little bit different. One of their wireless guitar systems. You can check it out on their website. They have 3 different models. We're going to take a brief look at the highest end one that they offer. Essentially, what makes this better than the other ones is that it offers multi-channels. They make it pretty easy to see which one is the sender and the receiver because they got the guitar on this one and they got the amp on that. So let's go ahead and try it out. So we'll plug this into our guitar like so, and then we'll come over here to our vintage style deluxe reverb and just modernize the thing. Oh, and no, I'm not plugged in with that. It does okay going through the walls. It's not perfect, but I think this would be great for just at-home use if you don't want, wires cluttering everything up. So if you're interested in checking one of these out for yourself, you can visit Donner at donnerdeal.com. Thank you, Donner, for sponsoring today's episode. And now let's get back to some more unboxing. I remembered the 90s custom, but I don't remember what he said the other one was. He sent me photos and everything, but let's keep some of the suspense up. I'll let you know it's a custom, and I know it's a nice one because he only collects the nice stuff, but he's selling some of the stuff off in order to afford a vintage Fender. So if anybody has a ridiculously nice Fender Stratocaster that's, true vintage, he's saving up some money to buy himself something really nice. But looking at this, it looks like we have a custom shop case here, so it'll be a slightly newer guitar. And this case definitely has a little bit more road wear to it. It's definitely been gigged, so we'll have to see how the guitar itself is. So inside here, we have... Uh-oh, we're going to have to censor this. People get upset. It's a Silverburst Les Paul Custom. Man, it's been a while since I've had a newer, older one. Like, I've had quite a few of the vintage, but as far as like the mid-2000s ones, man, this is really clean. I haven't seen a clean Silverburst in such a long time. It's funny. So if you don't like how these things green out, here's one that's a little bit more silver for us. Now I'm curious, is it a dark back? No, it's not. It's got the full-on burst, but gotta say, who was ever spraying that one did a not the best job in the world. You guys see what I'm saying? Normally these things will come up here to like a perfect point, but this one's got like a squished down teardrop shape. But you know, some of the vintage ones were like that too, so that's kind of got an aesthetic there. This one was definitely played though. You've got some scratches on the back right there. A little bit of a ding on the neck. Our headstock definitely has some scratches. I would call this one more so player's grade, but it looks like it's a 2008 from the serial number, so we should have a COA on this one. It's got the thin binding in the cutaway. Looks like we've got like a ding right here. But all in all, a pretty nice Silverburst here. It's got Schaller strap lock buttons on it too. Let's see, anything cool in here? Yes, indeed. We've got the switch tip, original strap buttons, case key, final checklist, and our beautiful COA to prove that it is an authentic Gibson. 88083. That's kind of an interesting number. If only that 3 would have been an 8. 88088. I know in the coin collecting circle, sometimes when serial numbers have repeating digits, they sell for more. And that's not necessarily true in guitar world, but I forget which guitar I had not too long ago. I didn't realize it until after I had recorded. It had the same 3 numbers repeated. I believe it's 2002, 2003 is the first time these things got reissued. And at that point in time, they had the dark backs for a few years. So if you're looking for an older, newer Silverburst with modern specs, I think that's who this one's mainly geared towards. But yeah, you can check it out on my website. It is on consignment. But now we've got a few smaller items that we can open today. So this will continue on our story of that Berry Les Paul Special. I called it Berries and Cream. I think they called it Wild Berry Metallic. You guys remember how that thing did not have the P100 pickup in it? Well, I guess technically it was a P90H Sidewinder pickup. Apparently they did have one. I was surprised. But I sold that special as is with that P90 because honestly I prefer that one anyways. But it's kind of cool getting to see one of these things in person now. Whoa! That has a date production from 2019. Fill me in, guys. What used a P90H Sidewinder in 2019? I'm not familiar. Thank you, Gibson, for making that right. I really wasn't expecting them to actually have this pickup. And then speaking of small parts, so a couple of times ago, I was telling you guys I'm still trying to restore that sparkled Les Paul Deluxe that I bought last year for my personal collection. And I just happened to get a guy who had the knobs I was looking for. And oh yes, these are nice. It's hard to tell in photos if it's going to be what I want, but these ones have that very slight aging job to it. So the story behind this is, I think his was a 1977 Les Paul Deluxe. He personally had it routed out for humbuckers a long time ago, and he swapped the knobs out for speed knobs. So he's always just kind of kept these as like a memorabilia of that guitar because he no longer owns it. But he saw I was looking for these knobs. He thought they might be a good fit. They've got a bit of a smoky scent to them, but nothing too bad. They should match that guitar pretty well. So that's that journey complete. I mean, the clear speed knobs were cool, but that's a collector's piece. And now this is the part where I'm supposed to tell you, okay, so our friend is selling those 2 guitars. This was one that he did a new Guitar Day purchase on. But unfortunately, I grabbed the wrong guitar. So we're going to have another guitar after this. I'm just going to do a quick zoop, zoop, zoop montage for you guys. Play it on my porch because it's an acoustic guitar. But we had gotten that from Sweetwater, but this was the wrong Sweetwater package. Inside here is our good old friend Enchanted Forest Majesty that had the bad piezo saddle. It didn't take too long to get this all fixed up. I think it was, 2.5, 3 weeks, maybe a little bit longer than that. I kind of forget how long it's been. But it was indeed a bad saddle, so they just replaced the saddle, so hopefully this all works. Because if you don't remember, this was a new Guitar Day purchase of somebody in Australia. They wanted to see me review it and then send it off to them since dealers aren't able to ship them brand new over there. Or at least Sweetwater's not able to anyway. So if you have a guitar that you need shipped to your country, you can check out my international forwarding program. It's under my new Guitar Day section on my website at the bottom as a hyperlink. It gets content for the show, and it gets guitars to you. And you can be sure that they'll work when they get to you. If not, I'll fix it before they get there. But I suppose I should make sure this works. Yep, I would say that all works. Alright, Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed this unboxing episode today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will catch you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care. I guess I have to clean the guitars up anyways, might as well take you guys with me. So, this one actually cleaned up okay. I mean, you can definitely tell there's lots of picking scratches, polishing swirls, and whatnot. Not quite as bad as when I had first gotten it. But I did notice there is like a few impressions right here in the clear coat. And then down here, as we were talking about earlier, there's kind of something a little bit deeper right there. And there is a very small crack in our knob right here. It still stays on very secure, so nothing to worry about, just a cosmetic little blemish. And everything's looking good underneath our pick guard. So the pickups appear to be the stock 490R, 498T series pickups. So we're all good there. And no funny business in our pickup cavities. It is a short neck tenon. We've got a maple top with a mahogany body. This is an ebony fretboard with a real mother of pearl block inlays. The frets are not too bad. Like in the cowboy cord area, you can definitely see some flattening. As I was telling you earlier, you could easily do a level recrown. That's like what, 100, 150 bucks depending on where you go. But I really don't think you're even going to need that right away unless you're super finicky with your setups. The rod looks good on this one, but there's lots of scratches on the headstock. Somebody must have left crazy strings on this, and people don't actually cut them off, and that must have scratched up the headstock. So that is there, a bit of a cosmetic eyesore, and there's also kind of a larger ding right here by that string post. But from far away, it looks pretty good. It's just when you start really looking at it, that's when you can see it's got scratched up. I'm sure the right buffing guy could probably get those out, but a general polish didn't work. Onto the back now. Everything's looking fine in our electronics cavity. It doesn't look like anything's been changed to me. Once again, it cleaned up pretty well. You can still see that little buckle worming area right here. Not complete rash running through the finish or anything, just pretty much in the clear coat when you get it in the light just right. But you can see a few light nicks and dings. I'd say the deepest one is right here. So it was gigged, but they took relatively good care of it, I would say. The worst thing was right here. There's like a giant ding in the binding. You can see what I'm talking about there. It was kind of pointy right there, so I just took a little bit of sandpaper and lightly filed that down. That way it didn't stand out as much. So that's a little bit better now. And of course, we've got our strap buttons on there that are the non-stock ones. The stocks are in the case. As far as the edge of the guitar goes, it's pretty clean. I didn't notice anything too crazy. Just light wear and tear. Looking right here on the base side of the neck, it looks like there is just a tad bit of finish wear, where you can see that silver base coat underneath the black. You really got to be looking for that though. The neck profile is a nice medium profile. I'd probably say like a 60s, but with a little bit more to it. If you don't like those pencil thin necks, this will be for you. But again, you do have that impression right here. Now, you could take that to a luthier and just have them fill it in with a bunch of lacquer and then just polish it up and then you wouldn't feel it anymore. But that is there. I want you to be aware of it, as well as a few other very small marks on the neck. And as far as our headstock goes here, you also have a little bit of edge wear along the top. Time for the blacklight test. Everything looks good on the front to me. No funny business there. Edges are also glowing the way I'd expect to see.
as does the headstock. There you can kind of see that ding a little bit better too. Onto the back side, everything's looking good there too. As well as on our neck here, no headstock breaks or anything like that. And I'd say this one is good to go. You can kind of see some of that finish rub area here. It's kind of a chunky one for a modern day guitar. 10 pounds, 11 ounces. Very similar to the originals. All right, let's go ahead and swap over to that cool vintage Sunburst. It's funny, the more beat up Silverburst one got better as I cleaned it. This one, I started to notice a few small blemishes here and there. Now it's got like some light scratches and minor nicks and dings, but nothing too crazy. But I don't want you to think this thing was mint condition. Like you can see a little bit of something going on here. There's like a small ding right there. Yeah, that's what I was trying to show you. There's some scuffs. It's certainly not a perfect example, but it maintains a very good presence, like the lacquer hasn't aged too much. Right in that area, you can see a few light impressions on it as well. There is a little bit of a deeper scratch right here too, when you catch it in the light. The knobs look good on this one though. And even underneath our pickguard, it's nice and clean now that I've polished it up, but a few small dings. But the pickups though were quite surprising. I would have thought for sure we'd have Gibson USA base plates by now. This is like that transition period. So this is what the 490 series of pickups looked like. A lot of people take these and sell them as Tim Shaw's because they have the same looking base plate, but the way you tell that they're part of the 490 series are these giant base plate screws. If you got the small brass ones, then you know you've got a Tim Shaw, or at least that's something you can look at to know. I mean, there's unscrupulous dealers that might just swap out the screws, but you got to look further into that. But I'm getting 13.7 in the bridge and 8.25 in the neck, so that's 490R, 498T. So there's your history lesson for the day. Now inside here, during the early 90s, there were two different kinds of customs. There were customs and then custom plus. They had the beautiful figure tops. Now these plain tops, they're not half bad either, but they have a stamp in here that tells you what color it is, VSB for Vintage Sunburst, as I was telling you before. Then they also have a date. It looks like maybe February 13, 1993, something like that. I'm not sure. Don't buy that because that just happens to be your birthday or something, because I can't verify that's what that actually says. That's just what it kind of looked like. And then LPC right here for Les Paul Custom. Moving on from the maple top and mahogany body, you just got that ebony fretboard. Now this one actually has a little bit more fret wear than the Silverburst, but you really don't start to see it until about the 5th or 6th fret. It's really on that G string where all the wear is, especially on that fret. Probably the worst on the 2nd would be my guess, but none of this is going to be needed addressed right away unless you're a super picky player. I think most guys would be okay with this for some time. Even then, the frets have a lot of life left. You can level and recrown them a couple times. The headstock's ridiculously clean on this, like lacquer-wise. But it was kind of cool to see. You do have a little bit of finish checking stemming across the front right here. Of course, it's going to play peekaboo on me right now, but you also have some other scratches from string changes and whatnot. And then there's like a little bit of an impression right here on the headstock, likely from a clip-on tuner of some sort. But nice white lacquer up here. Truss rod looks good, and that's what your cover looks like. It's also worth noting that the bridge is slightly collapsed on this one because somebody had this all decked down. I mean, it's still usable as is, but a non-collapsed bridge would help a bit because I'm noticing there is a bit of buzzing on the open D string, and I think if you were to get a non-collapsed bridge, that would actually completely cure that, because that's like the lowest point of the bridge. It's either that or you could raise your nut slot a little bit, but I think getting a bridge would be a little bit easier. But more bad news continues on this one. Beautiful flamed back once again, but this to me looks like somebody's rewired it. So we've got the Gibson branded pots here, but somebody has completely taken out the metal shielding tin that would have likely actually been in here at this point in time, and then they drilled that into the side right there as the grounding tab, and then just wired it up without that and did the shielding paint. I've never seen this before. Does that really hurt the value? Only if this thing would have been like complete mint condition, but since it has some scratches and nicks and dings, it doesn't really affect it much. But this back is just so cool. That's nice. But you do have some light scratches on the back here when you get it in the light. Just run that over here so you can see it. And when he was packing this guitar up, he was a little bit scared. Had this had a neck reset? Why does this have a dark heel? That's just a 90s spec. They did that for quite some time. Oh, that's kind of cool too. You can see some figuring in the side of the body. Thankfully, this one does not have any giant dings in the binding like that Silver Burst, though. Very nice. Backside of the neck, you can see a few light impressions, like right there. Maybe a small ding right here. I can't feel that, but I can see it. It's kind of strange. But when you get this neck in the light, this also has some flamed figuring to it. Not as crazy as the body, but enough to say it's there. Then here's our headstock. Everything actually looks pretty clean on this one. This is a pretty early 1993. But you do have a small ding on the corner right here. Now we'll swap over to our blacklight test. Everything is looking good here. Looks like maybe a little bit of a sweat absorption area right here. So maybe this thing was played more than we thought it was. It was just a loving, caring owner. So I know the consignee, he's got quite an extensive guitar collection. I don't know how much he plays them or not. I've never really talked to him about that. I just know he likes pretty much the same stuff I do, so it's always fun seeing what he gets. But moving on to the back side, everything's looking good here, as does the sides. But the only surprise on this one that I saw was right here. So the clear coat has been worn through into the finish area. And I'm surprised because, I mean, now that you see it there, you can feel a very slight difference. Like this area is a little bit faster feeling than over here. But I don't think that's really going to cause you any issues. You can only see that one under black light. Unlike that standard 82 that we had just talked about, where the hair over 10 pounds. So I hope you enjoyed this little bonus segment. Some guys like the workbench stuff, others don't. That's why we put it at the end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And check these out on my website if you happen to be interested. And we will catch you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.